Peace and blessings, and welcome to the DBW Morning Report. DBW, that's Dear Black Woman, where we're going to be giving real news and real readiness for Black women around the world. This new segment on Substack is where truth meets preparation. Each morning, we bring you the major news and major stories that broke overnight and how they will affect us, and the resources you need to stay informed, protected, and prepared. No distractions, no confusion, just facts, context, and solutions for today's world. Let's get into it. This is a special report on how new federal policies and online surveillance are changing the way we live, post, and connect. This is about what's really happening behind the scenes and why protecting your digital life is no longer optional. Now, on September 25th, 2025, the White House released a directive called National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, or NSPM 7. Its official title is Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence. That sounds straightforward, right? But the language in the memorandum quietly changes how the government can monitor people, organizations, and even donations connected to politics, whether they're connected to politics or not. It orders the FBI, Homeland Security, and Treasury Department, and the IRS to work together, not just to investigate violent acts, but to follow the money trails, online behavior, and organizational connections. This means that the government now focuses less on what you do and more on who you're connected to. So even if you've never broken a law, your posts, your group memberships, your donations, and your followers could now fall under the microscope. The Treasury has been told to track and disrupt financial networks that might be funding what they call domestic political violence. Banks must report transactions that look suspicious. The IRS must make sure that nonprofits, churches, and charities aren't indirectly supporting these movements. And the Justice Department now has the power to label certain groups as domestic terrorist organizations. Now, 3 days before this memo was released, the president signed an order declaring Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, despite Antifa not being a real organization. Together, these actions open the door to wide surveillance where data can be shared quickly and quietly across agencies. Now, why does this matter to you? Because this kind of system doesn't just track violent people. It tracks anyone in the digital neighborhood, and that includes regular citizens. You could be flagged for sharing a protest flyer, reposting an event that later turns messy, or donating to a cause that becomes controversial. Now, even though even your words can actually be flagged, a hashtag, a phrase, or a joke, it can all be logged, analyzed, and misunderstood by the now automated systems they are putting in place. And when the government asks for information, guess what? Tech companies often comply. Now that we're talking about those companies, because let's talk about why their ownership matters. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and WhatsApp all belong to Meta, controlled by Mark Zuckerberg. And we know he has political ties to the Republican Party. X, once known as Twitter, belongs entirely to Elon Musk. His relationship with President Trump swings from ally to critic, but the two have traded political support, and we just don't know where they stand right now. TikTok is still owned currently by the Chinese company ByteDance, but U.S. investors, including Larry Ellison, Rupert Murdoch, and Michael Dell, are bidding to buy the American version. Ellison and Murdoch are both major Republican donors. YouTube is owned by Alphabet. Now, that's Google's parent company, one of the largest data collectors in the world. They swing both ways, but they're often arguing with the government about freedom of speech. LinkedIn is also part of Microsoft, another tech giant with a long-standing government contract. Other platforms, Snapchat, Pinterest, Reddit, and Discord, also store enormous amounts of user data that can be turned over under subpoena. So, whether you're posting a selfie, running a small business, or promoting a cause, the people behind these platforms decide how your information is handled and when the government comes knocking, whether they're going to give it to them. Now, listen, it doesn't stop there. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, better known as ICE, has quietly begun expanding its own surveillance program. Here's what's happening right now. ICE is creating a 24-hour social media monitoring unit. Private contractors, who will watch platforms like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and X around the clock, collecting posts, analyzing hashtags, and identifying what they call threat indicators. I wish you could see me. I got quotes going right now. They've purchased tools that they can map your physical movements, connect them to your online activity, showing where you go, who you meet, and what you say. They're also buying access to private databases, from DMV records to utility bills and credit reports, which means they can often track people without a warrant. ICE is even expanding its physical tracking with new GPS wristbands and ankle monitors for those under supervision. And when people have used apps to report ICE sightings or warn immigrant communities, those apps have been shut down by major tech companies at the government's request. The reality is this. These systems don't just affect undocumented immigrants. They affect anyone who posts about immigration, law enforcement, or political issues. And political issues can be anything from racial justice to any issue dealing with LGBTQ plus communities. Your public words can become government intelligence. Your location data can be matched to events or protests, and your online associations can place you under watch, even if you've done nothing wrong. So how can we protect each other, and how can you protect yourself? Start simple. Post less, think more. Post less, think more. Never share addresses, maps, or event details online. Stop posting messages from the community leaders when you are at events. Keep your personal and professional accounts separate. Turn off location tracking on your devices. And remember, you never have to surrender your phone or its passwords without a warrant. Knowledge is protection, you guys. And the more you are aware, the harder it is for anyone to misuse your information. Now, the internet used to be a place for open dialogue. Now it's also a network of surveillance owned by corporations and influenced by politics. This doesn't mean you should stop speaking. I'm not saying that. It means you should speak wisely. Protect your privacy, educate your friends, encourage your community to stay alert and informed. Freedom of speech only survives when people understand the risk that comes with using it online. Stay aware, stay prepared, and never forget, awareness is protection, and the safest voice is an informed one. And in other news from around the globe, across West Africa, beauty spaces are evolving into healing spaces. In Ivory Coast, Togo, and Cameroon, hair salons are now doubling as safe havens for mental health support. Through an initiative called Healed by Hair, hundreds of stylists have been trained to recognize emotional distress, listen without judgment, and guide clients towards professional care. Now, more than 100,000 women have already benefited. This effort matters because in regions where therapy can feel out of reach, hair salons are places of trust. Now, we know this, especially those of us in the United States. This is where women gather, share, and find strength. The program is reshaping how mental health care is delivered through the community, culture, and connection. For Black women worldwide, it's proof that care can grow from the spaces we already hold sacred. Now, turning to Asia, Japan has entered a new chapter of leadership. Sana Takaichi has won the leadership race for ruling the Liberal Democratic Party, putting her on track to become Japan's first female prime minister. Her rise could signal a shift in a country long known for male-dominated politics. Now, Takaichi supports aggressive economic stimulus and more investment in social programs, policies that could redefine gender roles in business and government. Her leadership comes at a time when women across Asia continue to face deep wage gaps and cultural restrictions. If she governs effectively, Japan could model what female political power looks like in a major world economy. Representation alone won't solve inequality, but it can also open doors for more equitable change. Now, in nearby Afghanistan, the situation for women moves in the opposite direction. The Taliban's tightening restrictions have forced the United Nations to close several refugee aid centers. The reason female aid workers are no longer permitted to enter those sites. Without them, essential services like registration, food distribution, and healthcare will collapse. It's a painful reminder that when women are shut out, entire communities suffer. Now, in Latin America, thousands of women marched through the streets of Mexico City and Sao Paulo demanding reproductive rights and safe access to abortion. The demonstration highlights that even as laws evolve, bodily autonomy remains contested territory. For women throughout the Americas, the message was clear. Our choices must remain our own. Heading over to Australia, the former U.S. Vice President, Ms. Kamala Harris, is set to headline the Women's Unlimited Leadership Summit, scheduled for early next year across multiple Australian cities. The summit will convene women leaders, policymakers, and entrepreneurs from around the globe for discussions on innovation, equality, and social change. Her participation underscores the global reach of women leadership. For Black women, seeing Harris take the stage in an international context signals something larger: influence that crosses borders. It's a reminder that leadership isn't defined by geography, but by presence, preparation, and purpose. The summit is expected to highlight how inclusive policy and mentorship can shape economies and communities worldwide. Europe sees growing tension over migration and border policies that disproportionately affect women of African descent. Several EU nations, including Italy and Greece, are under scrutiny for detaining pregnant migrants in unsanitary conditions. Human rights monitors reports that women arriving from sub-Saharan Africa are being held without medical care or privacy while awaiting asylum processing. Advocacy organizations are calling for immediate intervention in human treatment. This situation ties into a broader conversation about how Europe's immigration system handles race, gender, and class. Now, when women of color seek safety, they're often met with hostility instead of help. Their survival stories are rarely told, yet they define the moral test of modern Europe. And back to the Americas, because I wasn't going to let them dominate the news. A late night border patrol raid in Chicago has sparked outrage and fear. Federal agents swept through an apartment complex in what they described as an anti-gang operation. God, I wish you guys could see me for the quotes that I'm putting up over here. But residents report that U.S. citizens, women, and children were caught up in the chaos. Some dragged from their beds, others subject to verbal abuse. Now, I'm going to pause this report right here. And I'm going to say I've seen the videos, and it's quite disturbing. I saw a baby actually zip-tied with his hands behind his back, a young Black boy. That actually brought tears to my eyes. Now, civil rights groups are demanding accountability, saying the operation shows how law enforcement overreach disproportionately harms communities of color. For Black and brown women, This reinforces a difficult truth. Safety and justice are not always applied equally. The emotional impact on mothers and children will linger far beyond these headlines. Trust me, that little boy, he's going to remember this. That's a core memory that has been placed in his brain. Now, from Abidjan salons to Chicago streets, from Tokyo's parliament to the shores of Europe and the upcoming summits in Australia, these stories reveal one truth. Black women everywhere are both shaping and enduring the world's biggest shifts. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay connected. This wraps up today's morning DBW report. Thank you for joining me. Tomorrow I'll bring you fresh updates, new resources, and insight on to help you navigate your day. Stay alert, stay informed, and I'll see you then.